This is perhaps my most anticipated video I've ever made here on YouTube. This is my top 25 favorite wrestlers of all time. I'm very, very excited to do this. I did something similar with my top 10 favorite wrestlers currently, but this is my top 25 favorite wrestlers of all time. We're going to start off first with the honorable mentions, those being Rob Van Dam, Mr. Monday Night, he's definitely one. Kofi Kingston, believe it or not, he's an honorable mention. Didn't quite crack the top 25 though. Sami Zayn, the underdog of the underground, Sami Zayn. Drew McIntyre, I consider favorite current wrestler and then favorite all-time wrestler in a different category. That's why Drew McIntyre didn't quite crack the top 25, but I still love him to death. R-Truth. Yes, this is definitely going to be a controversial list. You can already tell. And Adam Cole, baby. And I forgot to get his figure, but Stone Cold Steve Austin is also an honorable mention for me. So we're gonna get the honorable mentions out of the ring, and we're gonna get into this list. If there's not many like classic people on here, that's because I don't have as much sentimental value towards them. Like 80s to like 2000s, you're not gonna see an insane amount of those people on here just because I don't have as much sentimental value. And when I look at one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, I heavily take into account sentimental value towards that specific wrestler, towards that specific character. And obviously there is exceptions, but mostly I just keep it down to people who have been there for my entirety of watching wrestling, and I have a lot of sentimental value towards. That's mostly what I consider my favorite wrestler to be. I know it might be a controversial practice, and it's going to make this list a little controversial, but we're going to get right into it. I can't stress it enough. This is my list. Number 25, Jimmy Uso. No yeet. I love the Usos. I'm a massive Uso fan. You might see Jey Uso a little bit later in this list, but Jimmy is absolutely amazing. I loved the Usos when I was a tad bit younger. I thought they're like the babyface gimmick was so awesome, so colorful, so cool, and I loved their entrance with like the pyro and all that. I love their theme song. I just love everything about the Usos. There are but they're probably, for the record, my favorite tag team of all time. But when it comes to singles wrestlers, they also crack the top 25 here. So Jimmy Uso gets that. And he also just returned at Bad Blood, which was a very anticipated return for me, so I might be lost in that moment. But Jimmy Uso is definitely one of my favorites of all time, believe it or not. Number 24, I'm giving it to Mr. Yeet, Jay Uso. Now, obviously, both the Usos at pretty similar spots. I already explained why I love the Usos, but Jay is my preferred one out of the Usos. I think he's a more natural babyface. I think he's a more like a character that can connect with the crowd. He's super fun. He's super charismatic. He's super cool. I absolutely love Jay Uso, and he is our current Intercontinental Champion. As we go on, we're going to get into more like main event talent, but for now, this is more like mid card talent, I guess you could say, that I have a lot of sentimental value towards, or they're just one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Number 23 is going to Dolph Ziggler, the show off Dolph Ziggler. I love Dolph Ziggler, especially in WWE. He's been great in TNA. He had a very extended run in WWE, lasted nearly 2 decades until he was released in 2023, unfortunately, and then he went to TNA, obviously. But he's one of my favorite Intercontinental Champions of all time. I think he did great in that role, and I feel like he should have won like a world title where he would have had a better reign because he won the world title like Vicky Guerrero awarded him the title, then he got beaten by Edge in the same night, and then he won the world title in 2013, I believe, and then he got concussed, and then Vince lost faith in him, and he never won another world title. But I feel like Dolph Ziggler is a very main event caliber wrestler, a great wrestler, and I love the guy. Dolph Ziggler, my number 23. Number 22, I'm going with the Demon King, Finn Balor. Now, this might be a little low for him, but I feel like Finn Balor is absolutely amazing. No matter what role he's in, he's absolutely excelled in it. Whether that be the Judgment Day or the first Universal Champion, like this figure shows right here, he can be the Prince, he can be the Demon, he can pull it off. He can pull off it all. Finn Balor is absolutely amazing, and I feel like he's very, very underrated when it comes to how WWE treats him these days. I feel like he could be winning more. But yes, Finn Balor is definitely my number 22 favorite wrestler of all time. Number 21, I'm going with the broken one, Matt Hardy. I said the Usos were my favorite tag team of all time, but close second is definitely the Hardy Boys. I'm a massive Hardy Boys fan. I'm a big fan of Jeff Hardy in particular, but Matt Hardy, he's still amazing. He still cracks my top 25, and he's just like like with Finn Balor, he can just pull off any character. He can be broken Matt Hardy. He can be a member of the Hardy Boys, and he could be Big Money Matt, even though I wasn't really a fan of that gimmick. But Matt Hardy, he's amazing. He can do literally anything. This is going to be a little low for this guy, but number 20, I'm giving it to the game Triple H. The only real reason why he's so low is because I don't have as much sentimental value towards him because I haven't seen his I've watched his matches obviously from his active years, but I wasn't really watching WWE live during that time, so that plays a big factor. It's just that like if I don't have as much sentimental value towards a person, I'm not gonna like hold them in that high of like favor compared to some other people. But that's kind of just the way it is. But I still love Triple H. He's the man who saved the wrestling business when he acquired WWE, the chief content officership in 2022. He saved WWE. He began the Renaissance era. It's been absolutely amazing. I love Triple H. I love his booking, and he's amazing. Number 19, I'm giving it to the Learning Tree, Chris Jericho. Just like with Matt Hardy and Finn Balor, I love people who can just pull off anything, make it good, make it funny if it has to be funny, make it serious if it has to be serious. Chris Jericho can do all of that and more. My favorite gimmick of him is probably the List of Jericho. That was like so funny. If you weren't watching during that time, I do feel bad for you because you never really got to experience the List of Jericho and his friendship with Kevin Owens and all that. That was just so funny. But today he's still wrestling in AEW as the Learning Tree, which is probably my second favorite gimmick he's ever had. And he can just pull off anything. Like with Finn Balor and Matt Hardy, he can really just do anything. I love Chris Jericho. He's so funny. He's definitely my number 19 favorite of all time. Number 20, I kind of had to give him oh wait, no, no, no. No, no. Number 18, I kind of had to give him a spot right here. Bray Wyatt. You already know. He is one of the most creative minds in the history of the business, whether that be as the Fiend or as the cult Wyatt family leader or as what was I guess going to be the Wyatt Six storyline before he tragically passed away in August of 2023. I still miss Bray Wyatt to this day. But just he's so creative. No matter what he did, he always put 110% into it. He thought of he thought of all these crazy ideas. And unfortunately, Vince McMahon wasn't the easiest to work with for him. Then he got to work with Triple H a little bit. He got to be really creative. But then his career was cut tragically short. Like I said, I always miss Bray Wyatt. But yes, he's definitely one of my favorites of all time. Number 17, the prize fighter Kevin Owens. When Kevin Owens first came up to the main roster, I liked him, but he wasn't like one of my favorites because I didn't really like hadn't really like seen much of him. But when it comes to like the things that this man can do, he's absolutely insane. The high flying moves, despite him being a bigger dude, he's just a very very versatile talent. He can be a comedic babyface. He can be a heel, like I guess he is after he attacked Cody Rhodes in the in front of his bus after Bad Blood. But yes, I love Kevin Owens, and I believe this is my number 17. Yes, it is my number 17. Number 16, I'm giving it to the icon Sting right here. WCW, WWE, AEW. He was amazing in every promotion he was in up until when he retired in March of this year. But I feel like he always had a lot to offer the business, no matter his age. He always loved the business, no matter his age. And he's just like his character work, just like the aura surrounding Sting. That's what makes him so amazing. And I actually dressed up like Sting for Halloween one time. I'm not sure what year, but I remember dressing up as him. Let me count stuff real quick. I believe this is my number 16 spot right here. Number 16, I'm giving it to the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. I never really got to experience much of him because I wasn't watching wrestling at the time. But he is one of the greatest technical wrestlers, if not the greatest technical wrestler that this business has ever seen. People are still observing his matches to this day, even his matches from like upwards of 30 years ago. People are still just watching those matches, going off of Shawn Michaels' work on how to better yourself as a pro wrestler, and that's definitely saying something. Like his matches from like 1997 up until like the 2000 to 2000s, the 2010s a little bit, until he retired in 2010. But yeah, obviously he had to retire shortly after his back injury after WrestleMania 14, but he did eventually come back, and he had more five-star classics. Shawn Michaels right there. Number 14, I'm going with the rated R superstar, Edge slash Adam Copeland. Edge is a literal inspiration as a human being. He was told that he would never be able to wrestle again in 2011. And at first, he kind of like came to terms with that, I could only assume. But then he started to work on a comeback. He worked endlessly to get his body back into shape to wrestle in the ring, and he's still wrestling to this day. Yes, I know he is injured right now, but he is still an active wrestler right now in AEW, and that's what you gotta love about Edge. He's a big inspiration just as a human being, and he's also a fantastic wrestler. Oh my gosh, very innovative, very inventive. Edge is absolutely awesome. I love Edge. The Beast, Brock Lesnar, definitely cracked my top 25 right here. Obviously, he hasn't been appearing on WWE TV more recently, but I feel like he is like the ultimate final boss character. Like The Rock is the final boss, obviously, but I feel like he's just the ultimate like final boss character to go up against WWE's baby faces. So he definitely gets my number 13 spot, the Beast, Brock Lesnar. Just the things that he does, the things that he used to do, particularly in his more youthful years, they're just absolutely insane. He would wreck everybody, literally. Brock Lesnar, he's amazing. Number 12, I got the charismatic enigma, Jeff Hardy. You already know. Jeff Hardy, you can't not love Jeff Hardy. He puts his body on the line seemingly every time he goes out to wrestle. And some people are saying that he needs to retire because of all the insane stuff he continues to do in TNA these days. And people are saying he needs to retire to keep himself safe, to keep other people safe. I hate to say it, but I could agree somewhat, but I still think what Jeff Hardy contributed to the business, it can never be denied, it can't be diminished, it can't be taken away from him or any of us, all the moments that he gave us. He deserves the number 12 spot right there. Jeff Hardy. Number 11, I got the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. I don't have an Elite or an AEW figure of Daniel Bryan slash Bryan Danielson. But yes, when I first started watching WWE, my two favorite guys were basically Daniel Bryan and then the next person I'm about to talk about here at my number 10 spot. But yes, Daniel Bryan slash Bryan Danielson. Basically every time he won a world title, it was seen as a magical, inspirational moment because he was looked down upon by mainly Vince McMahon. I would say only Vince McMahon actually, but he showed Vince how he could be a number one guy if he really needed to, and he was just amazing. One of my favorite technical wrestlers of all time, and definitely my number 11 favorite wrestler of all time. He proved everybody wrong. He got to the top at WrestleMania 30, the Miracle on Bourbon Street. What a time that was. What a wrestler Bryan Danielson slash Daniel Bryan truly is. I mentioned my number 10 spot. This guy used to be my favorite when I first started watching WWE, that being Dean Ambrose slash John Moxley right here. Like I said, when I first started watching WWE, I just found Dean Ambrose's character to be so funny. Like he dumped Pepsi into Seth Rollins' Money in the Bank briefcase. And of course, how can I forget when like the green stuff launched from the briefcase right into Seth Rollins' face? He was just so funny, and his delivery was just always on point with funny stuff, and his delivery is always on point in the ring. Dean Ambrose slash John Moxley, he can play so many different characters. Very versatile wrestler, and I absolutely love him. Number nine, I'm giving it to the phenomenal one, AJ Styles. You already know. AJ Styles has contributed so much to the pro wrestling business, has inspired, I can only assume he's inspired so many people in the future to get into pro wrestling. Most like the younger people who want to get into pro wrestling, I can only assume that one of their inspirations would be the phenomenal AJ Styles. He's always just delivered in the ring, no matter the opponent. He's always just been top notch in terms of ring work, and he's never been afraid to give the rub to younger talents like LA Knight at WrestleMania. Even though I know LA Knight is in his 40s, but he still passed the torch onto LA Knight. That was really great to see, and he's always just very selfless and just very committed to pro wrestling. He has been ever since he first started his career, and I absolutely love AJ Styles for it. This is my number eight. Yes, my number eight spot is gonna go to Sheamus, the Celtic Warrior. I feel like Sheamus is super duper underrated in ring work wise, and I feel like he should win the Intercontinental Championship before he retires because he is getting on in years. I think he's like 46, something like that, but he's still doing some high spots like we saw during his match with Butch. Oh, I'm sorry, Pete Dunne on Raw. And Sheamus did just fall over, but he's still doing the high spots. He did the white noise off the barrels through the tables, and he's just really awesome, really cool. I've always loved Sheamus, and I actually met Sheamus one time. I think it was 2021, and I actually got a picture with him. So yes, Sheamus obviously, and ever since that, he has a lot of sentimental value for me because I obviously met him. Number seven, I'm gonna go with Rey Mysterio. I've talked about inspirations when I was talking about Edge. There's perhaps nobody more inspirational in this business, like a not necessarily like person wise, but like wrestler wise. Rey Mysterio. He's broken so many barriers, broken the barriers of race, broken the barriers of size, broken the barriers of capability. He came around during a time where a lot of like big monsters were pushed who didn't necessarily have all it took to succeed. But obviously there were some people who had all it took to succeed. But Rey Mysterio is just absolutely amazing. So, two world title wins, actually three world title wins. He's a two-time world heavyweight champion and then a one-time WWE champion, I believe. But yes, Rey Mysterio, he's definitely up there. He's definitely one of my favorites of all time. Definitely an inspiration. Number six, I'm giving it to the big red machine, Kane, right here. Kane, he's just like he's always been around, but for like obviously he hasn't been like wrestling that much in terms of like more recently, but he was just always around, always determined to just bring on the best show for the fans, and I love Kane for it. He was also one of my favorites when I first started watching. My three main dudes were Daniel Bryan, Dean Ambrose, and then Kane. Those are like my three favorites. All those, Dean Ambrose was probably my favorite. Like all time, I'd probably give that to Kane out of those groups. Number five, this might be a little low for him, but I'm giving it to John Cena. John Cena is a lot of people's favorite wrestlers of all time, favorite wrestler of all time, for good reason. John Cena was the face of WWE for many years, even though not many people really appreciated him for it. Ever since he beat JBL at WrestleMania 21, I think, he was just carrying the WWE on his back for so many years. And then eventually during the U.S. title open challenges, people like really started to appreciate John Cena. I always loved him. He was always one of my favorites for sure, and he still continues to be. He's gonna go on his final run in 2025, which I know a lot of people would be pretty disappointed about. And like I wasn't really. He's been readying us for all these years for retirement. I wasn't necessarily ready for it. but even though he had been running us, but yes, John Cena is going on his final run in 2025. Now, when that eventually happens, like when the run kicks off, I'm probably gonna do a video on like 5 opponents I would want John Cena to face, so stay tuned. Number four, I got the visionary, the revolutionary, Seth freaking Rollins, first ever world heavyweight champion, of course, and believe it or not, probably one of my favorite WWE champions of all time. I feel like his run had a lot of great moments, even though it was cut short, but it still had a lot of great moments, a lot of fun moments with Dean Ambrose, a lot of great matches against people like Dean Ambrose. They had some pretty good matches against each other. But yes, Seth Rollins definitely my number four favorite wrestler of all time. And he is the former tag team partner in the Shield of my number three favorite wrestler of all time, the OTC Roman Reigns. You kind of have to have Roman Reigns on here, similar to people like John Cena. He's somebody you really like have to have on your top favorite wrestlers list. And this video is getting long, jeez. But Roman Reigns, definitely my number three of all time. Yeah, just I didn't like him as a babyface, like his original babyface run. I don't feel like many people did, but obviously ever since he turned heel, he really won the fans over. He really won me over with his historic nearly 4 year championship run. Of course, being ended at WrestleMania 40 by Cody Rhodes. He's always just loved the business. Always been very dominant as of course the champion. So yes, Roman Reigns, definitely one of my favorites of all time. Number two, I got the dead man, The Undertaker. Of course, The Undertaker debuting at Survivor Series in 1990, and then nearly 30 years later retiring. He stuck around for so many years. And if I can, you can probably tell this. If I can tell if somebody loves the business, that makes me automatically love them. I could tell that The Undertaker loved the business. He was always in it for the sake of giving the fans a good show no matter what he was going through at the time. He got literally set on fire during the Elimination Chamber 2010 match. Yeah, he still went in there. He's been injured many times during matches. Yeah, he still finished the match, and he's just absolutely amazing. The Undertaker is my number two favorite wrestler of all time, behind my favorite wrestler of all time. And you probably know this. It might be a little predictable, but yes, I hold him to a very high regard. I have a lot of sentimental value towards him, which is a lot of the reason of what makes a wrestler one of my favorites of all time for me. But yes, this man is amazing. I don't think you'll ever find anybody better. My favorite of all time is Kurt Hawkins. Kurt Hawkins is one of the greatest of all time, and it's definitely my favorite of all time. I'm just joking. My favorite wrestler of all time is Randy Orton. Nothing really needs to be said. RKO out of nowhere, the scoop power slam, the DDT, just so many awesome moves, so many awesome characters he's had. He's able to pull it all off. He can be a heel, he can be a baby face. Mostly in his later years, he can be a baby face, which is where we're at right now. I hope he feuds with Cody Rhodes soon, and I hope he does win another world title one day. He could always break John Cena's record because he said he wants to wrestle for another like 10 years. So I think that's very well possible that he could like accomplish that goal. But yes, Randy Orton is my favorite wrestler of all time, and this has been my top 25 favorite wrestlers of all time. Please let me know your favorite wrestler of all time in the comments down below. I would love to hear it. Jed Wrestling out.